So I finished watching the newest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that being Season 2, Episode 5, Charades. So in this episode, let's just jump right into the plot summary. And there's a so they're investigating basically the ruins of an ancient civilization located in the Vulcan sector. And there's a shuttle accident, and that leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by the aliens. And I'm pretty sure it's aliens of that civilization that were able to become interdimensional beings. Who knows? That's what everyone's concluding in the episode. And then, of course, during all this, T'Pring's family comes aboard the ship. And so, well, not during all this, but during the same time, because, so, for context, T'Pring is Spock's fiancée, betrothed, whatever term you want to use. Fiancé is probably the more modern equivalent, but basically they're engaged to be married, and an important ceremonial dinner needs to occur. And Spock, with this, he does not have his mental control faculties because he is entirely human, which means he's experiencing his emotions, but human-type emotions, not Vulcan-type, which do require, suppression and all that. But it's very interesting because this gets us to see another side of Spock that we don't see before. Essentially, what if Spock actually showed his emotions like he was a human? But at the same time, his emotions are more like that of a teenager, which makes sense. Spock has no experience of emotions before, so he's going to be experiencing them in a different way than other people. It's almost kind of like when Data first got his emotion chip. And so I'm being able to feel emotions. It was the sense of he didn't know how to deal with them, therefore they were stronger than they would normally be. Maybe portray themselves as a bit more intrusive, if you will. But at the same time, there are certain things that show, yes, Spock having these emotions is good for him, but at the same time not. Like, they contrast basically by having a montage with daily activities for him, like socializing and all that, in meetings. Like in the meetings, like, when he was under control of emotions with his Vulcan DNA and all that, and basically when he was fully half Vulcan, half human, but you know what I mean. He was able to, so Sam Cook, has a snack during the meeting and leaves some crumbs. When he's in fully control of his emotions using the Vulcan suppression techniques, and that's capable because he's half Vulcan, he just quietly gets up and removes the plate and the crumbs. But without that, when he's fully human, he has to be held back from attacking Sam Cook. So that kind of shows the contrast there in a more negative light, but also in a more positive light. When there's a scene, this is not part of the montage, but this still scene, like, when Nurse Chapel is frustrated that she didn't get the fellowship with a Vulcan institute that she was trying to get, Spock was able to comfort her. And in a way that he couldn't have done as a Vulcan. All he could have done as a Vulcan is Vulcans can be insensitive or something like that, or he probably would say insensitive to the needs of humans, something like that. But with having those emotions, he was able to just cut straight to the point, say Vulcans are jerks, and then he gives Nurse Chapel a hug. Now, a big part of Star Trek Strange New Worlds is clear that Nurse Chapel has feelings for Spock. And that's because that was set up straight up in Star Trek TOS, the original series. And one thing we've been wondering is how is Star Trek Strange New Worlds going to address that, especially as we get closer to the timeline. And because we know Spock is engaged to be married to T'Pring and all that stuff. We know how that's going to turn out, but what are they going to do in the meantime? This episode they do make the decision. So let's go back to the plot with T'Pring's family. So we get to meet T'Pring's mother, which, can I just say, she's a stereotypical Vulcan, arrogant, very much like the Vulcans of Star Trek Enterprise. Meanwhile, T'Pring's father's like, you can tell he is not stuck up. He's probably more of how we wish Vulcans are, like, ooh. Like, there's a thing, like, Pike makes some traditional Vulcan dishes, he tries it, ooh, very good. But T'Pring's mother's like, nope, it's not traditional, and he eases off. But you can tell every time, like, he's inquisitive. Yes, you can tell he is still a Vulcan, but he's inquisitive. he's happy to try new experiences, while T'Pring's mother is clearly a traditionalist and very much domineering and exasperating. And actually, there's a moment where Spock was going to tell T'Pring what was going to happen, but in his human emotion, he decided not to burden her with that. And in some ways, that was a good emotional decision, but it was also the wrong decision because him and T'Pring don't have the best relationship to begin with. So by doing that, he harms their relationship. And it does mean at the end of the episode they take another break. Seems like they're always taking breaks. No wonder she decides she wants to marry someone by the time of the TOS episode. What is it? Well, I can't remember the name, but you know which one I'm talking about. So, we know that's eventually going to happen, and this show is showing us why that happens, because, like, they, in some ways, were never a proper match for each other, mainly because Spock was very dedicated to his duties. But at the same time, while, sure, he probably harmed his relationship with T'Pring during this, it actually strengthened his relationship with his mother, including realizing all that she had to put up through living among Vulcans as a human. So it helps kind of, strengthen their relationship. So sure, his relationship with his fiancée has been damaged, but his relationship with his mother has been improved, which I think is a very good thing for them to show us. Additionally, we have a bunch of good comedy scenes where Spock is being trained to act like a Vulcan without the Vulcan DNA to back him up. And there's lots of good humor, but one of the best is where basically Uhura, number one, Lon, and Ortegas is basically teaching him how to speak as a Vulcan. He said, and he asks, "Do I really sound like that?" And they all in unison say yes. I thought that was just good humor. Of course, we gotta talk about the accident and that led to this change in Spock. Well, they encountered those interdimensional beings who changed his DNA because when they crashed, because him and his chapel were in the shuttle and doing studies and all that on the civilization, doing scans, and the thing is, when they crashed, the alien's like, okay, this person's fully human, this person's not. Well, we'll make the other person fully human. And that alien society does leave basically a calling call. Pike has the whole patch them through, and sure, they try to lodge a complaint, but clearly the one alien that they speak to has, they're fully healthy, and Pike is like, yes, but, and then cuts them off. It's very much like, we don't make mistakes. If you have a complaint, oh, okay, you're healthy, then nothing else, without realizing the other stuff going on. And so eventually, Nurse Chapel, and along with Uhura and Ortegas, go back to the rift, able to get inside of it, and Chapel speaks with the aliens, meets another one who's like, this is unusual, and then basically she says, can I speak with the person we spoke with before? And they do that. And one thing, and this is a very important thing because two things happen. One, well, this is kind of off screen, but Nurse Chapel does successfully appeal to get the help she needs in order to get a cure, because everything she was doing was just not working out because there was just something blocking it. There was very complex medical scientific stuff. But the thing is, apparently, you have, in order to lodge a complaint outside the official complaint window, you have to be there has to be a sufficient type of relationship. First of all, wouldn't Nurse Chapel being one of the nurses on the Enterprise that Pike as Spock as a crew member be sufficient? Sure, that's the logical choice. But this is not about logic, it's about emotion. And she has to basically admit to herself that she does have feelings for Spock. She knows it, but she doesn't want to admit it to herself. And her and Ortega's like, come on, we all know. Clearly everyone on the Enterprise knows that she has a crush on Spock. It's not subtle, it's not hidden, if you will. And she has to admit to the aliens that she wants to have a closer relationship with Spock than just friendship. And that is actually what is able to get her the help she needs and able to get the cue which she gives to Spock before the last part of the ceremony, and that allows him to complete it because hard to fake a mind meld with his own mother. So there was that. But the thing is, Spock was about to admit something to her when she does the injection to administer the cure. Right before, probably what he was going to do was say that he also has feelings for her. And then, of course, then T'Pring breaks it off, and then a little while later, and shortly after that, Chapel visits Spock, and they have a conversation, and Spock, admits that Vulcans do have feelings, and that there's one feeling he doesn't want to suppress anymore, which obviously is that he also has feelings for Chapel, and they start kissing. So that's a direction I did not expect them to take, but I can see why they're doing it, because it makes sense. We know they have a relationship in a way that's different than any other character we see in TOS between the characters. Even like him and Kirk, Spock and Kirk, don't have the same kind of things. Let's really talk about the episode. Well, actually, that might have been the episode I was thinking of, but the episode where Spock enters Pon farr. Who's the one who probably is the only one on the ship who truly understands what's going on? Nurse Chapel, because you can tell she's interested in Vulcans. And she brings him soup. Traditional Vulcan soup, may I add. So it's not like it's a totally foreign, whatever's going on is not totally foreign to her. She probably knows a lot more about Spock's personal life than nearly everyone else on the ship, just because in TOS by evidence of that. So it would make sense that their relationship would probably deepen at one point, especially since it's clear that Spock and T'Pring don't have that good a relationship and are in many ways just kind of almost fulfilling family obligations, not really looking after themselves and all this. Like, in some ways you can definitely tell. In Spock and T'Pring's relationship, T'Pring is the one who's most looking after the relationship. So it kind of makes sense why things fall apart when Spock is not really interested in the relationship. You can tell he's much more going through this because it's the proper thing to do, the logical thing to do, not necessarily the emotionally healthy thing to do, which makes sense for Vulcans because Vulcans don't have a good grasp of emotions. Even though they do have them, many of them just don't understand them, and you can definitely tell some Vulcans think they're above emotions and all that. And it does make some sense. And should we even talk about how the episode's tied to charades? Not only is there a charade hiding the accident from T'Pring's family and the changes to Spock, but also there is a scene where in order to delay time, Pike says, "Hey, let's do charades," basically, which I thought is kind of funny, but they were also performing a massive charade, and it almost works until Spock reveals it, because basically you can tell he does it in a Vulcan fashion because this is after the cue has been administered, but you can tell he's fed up with T'Pring's mother's basically stuck-up attitude. And I wouldn't be surprised if lots of people in the room, like, finally somebody said it. Because you can definitely tell she's a stuck-up Vulcan, and you can tell, because both the actors for Spock and T'Pring did a very good job of showing the underlying emotions, especially in the Vulcan form, and especially T'Pring's actor. You can tell she's exasperated with her mother, but you can also tell that she's acting like she's not exasperated by acting like somebody who is exasperated but trying to hide it. Like, very, very subtle but very good ways of showing what Vulcan culture is like and how Vulcans do interact with emotions, and how some Vulcans are just much better at dealing with emotions than other Vulcans. And Spock is definitely one of them who's not the best at dealing with his emotions, I gotta say. I really gotta say he's not the best. But that does make sense given everything we know about his character in TOS and the TOS movies. So, it is consistent, if you will. It is logical, if you will. So that is just my thoughts on the latest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Charades. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And of course, thank you for watching, and live long and prosper. Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like, upvote, and share the video. Also consider subscribing and following the channel if you haven't done so yet, and to ring that bell on YouTube to get notified of when new videos release. The link tree in the description links to all my social media. Check it out if you are interested, and once again, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you always.